And so in the big picture, sex, I believe, is a reflection of divine unity. And so someone mentioned the Trinity, where the Trinity is one. So they're distinct, Father, Son, and Spirit, and yet they're one. And this is part of what happens in sex as well. That male and female become one, but yet still distinct. The male doesn't stop being the male, the female doesn't stop being the female, but yet somehow they're interwoven and they become one. And so there's a sense where the sex act is a reflection of that unity, a reflection of that oneness. And again, how this plays out practically is often in terms of intimacy, procreation, and pleasure. And I would see these as reflections of God's love through truth, goodness, and beauty. And so part of sex is intimacy. And so I'll put this on the path of truth, intimate knowing, where we get to know not just our bodies, but our souls and our spirits with each other. Short definition of intimacy is simply allowing ourselves to be seen, to be known in the presence of another. And so again, I want to know the truth of who you are. And the sexual encounter, the sexual dance allows me to know that. And again, when we're talking about the sex act itself, as we mentioned earlier, there's a dance to the sexes that some of this intimacy would still be included in the non-genital aspects of it. But certainly in the genital aspects of it, here's a profound reflection of that path of truth, that intimate knowing. And so in our dances is often marked by our curiosity, fascination with the other, our wonder, our wanting to know. The romance is often part of this path of intimate knowing, this path of truth. And so in the Old English, Adam knew his wife Eve, and she conceived. And I think there's a lot of power in that no, that yada, or it's not, again, I just had sex with you. There's a experiential knowledge of the other person. And this is part of how we reflect God, that again, as we're joining, we're bringing the truth of who we are into that encounter. And reflecting God through that. We have truth. We also have goodness. Where goodness is about creative action. So inasmuch as you've done this to the least of these, you've done also to me, Christ says. And so love actively provides what is needed. And so our sex act gets to be a vehicle of love, meeting various physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual needs for our spouse. And so we get to be the hands, we get to provide that touch, even that sensual and erotic aspect of it gets to feed the soul in ways that are not available elsewhere. And so again, we're bringing that loving action, that love in action through our bodies, through our sexual act. We're bringing an action component to love. We talk about procreation, and so certainly sex includes procreation, making babies in the physical sense. But I will make the case that every act should also be procreative in the sense that is life-giving. That we should walk away from every sexual expression with more life. Which then becomes a litmus test that if this sexual expression is demeaning or shallow, or I'm not walking away filled up with more life, then yes, something was amiss. So again, I'm not saying that every sexual encounter needs to be for the purpose of making babies. But every sexual encounter should be creative in the sense that it brings more life into our souls. And so we have truth, intimate knowing, goodness, creative action, and then we have the path of beauty, which would be the path of joy experienced. And so beauty is a gift from God to be enjoyed in its own right. And so like watching the sunset, listening to good music, we don't have to, man, why are you sitting and staring and gazing at the sun? Why are you taking in the beauty of God's creation? It's like it stands in its own right that we need beauty. Life, mercy, is hard. There's a lot of darkness and despair, and we need regular doses of beauty. God gives us a new sunrise every morning. He gives us countless wildflowers. All this is telling us that we need regular doses of beauty. And the sex act is part of that as well. That part of sex simply gets to enjoy beauty, where we don't have to explain it in rational statements. I'm not trying to actively do something for you per se. It's just I get to receive beauty. I simply get to bask in the pleasures that are available. And so erotic pleasures get to be enjoyed in their own right. In your presence is the fullness of joy. At your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Many Christians have a suspect relationship with pleasure. But again, we feel like we have to justify it and explain it for other ways. Well, as long as pleasure is a means to this, then it's okay. And I'm making the case that there's time for beauty in its own right. And again, we're not neglecting the other paths, but again, there's a place for beauty in its own right. And so in some ways, this is like the Trinity, or again, saying that a favor of the Spirit is not negating the Father and the Son, but again, I get to enjoy the Spirit in his own right as I get to enjoy the Father and Son in their own rights as well. And again, like the Trinity, they're all interrelated. And so again, I can't completely remove one from the other. And so as I'm talking about beauty, I can't completely divorce beauty from those paths of truth and goodness, though it is a distinct path.